Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. Today we're going to head out on the highway and see how efficient the 2023 Electrified Genesis GV70 is at 70 miles per hour. Let's get to it. I'm actually a huge fan of this car. The first time I got in it, I was like, wow, this interior is beautiful. I've actually always loved the exterior styling as well of the GV70, and I appreciate how this electrified version really doesn't look any different from the gasoline model. You just got to know that the grille is fully enclosed and that there's no tailpipes. You don't even get any sort of badging on the back that says electrified or anything like that. And I like that strategy because whether you like it or not, electric vehicles are becoming part of our new car reality. This is going to be a very real-world test. There's no sort of conditioning or anything like that. We've simply set the tire pressures and we're going to hop in the vehicle and head out and hit the highway. So without any further ado, let's get rolling. This Genesis GV70 features a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. Same one you get in a lot of the Hyundai, Genesis, Kia electric vehicles. And this one should have an estimated mixed driving range from the EPA of about 236 miles. That's such a specific number. I don't know how they get that, but either way, that's a little on the low side for a lot of EVs these days. And I'm kind of hoping that Genesis sort of undershot it, if you will. So I'm hoping that ends up being a very real world sort of figure that is very attainable, because if we're only going to get about 200 or so on the highway, not really fantastic. But either way, we've hopped in the car. We're going to set our climate control here to auto. Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? There we go. Auto 73, synchronize that. And we're going to throw the car in eco mode. There's also comfort and sport and an individual. And we're off. Our GPS is reset. Our trip computer is reset. We've got about a 2-mile drive to the highway, and then we head out and cruise. Other things you should know, outside temperature today is 64 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to be a super ideal sort of setup for an electric vehicle that's not really going to have to be working really hard for the air conditioner. It's not going to have to be making heat either, and it's going to get to just get some good range, hopefully. We do have 266 miles of range according to the vehicle right now. It's quite a bit higher than the EPA estimates. So again, I'm hoping that in real world driving, this car actually is very capable of attaining its EPA range. But we have been driving it mostly around city type situations lately. So once we get cruising at higher speeds where electric vehicles are not as efficient, then that might drop down. One interesting thing to note is that even when the battery is charged up to 100% here, the one-pedal driving is still fairly strong. The regen is still pretty effective. In a lot of electric vehicles, when you charge it up to 100, you don't really get regen until you get down to about 90. So the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not going to try to get the best possible range out of the car here, but rather a realistic figure. We're going to get up to highway speed here at a reasonable pace, set our cruise control at a GPS indicated 72 miles per hour, and then go out and do 50 miles in one direction, come back and do 50 miles back to negate any wind or elevation changes. And then we're going to charge it all the way back up and see how much electricity it took and get some sort of range and efficiency figure based on percentage of battery used and electricity put back in. This thing is just such a nice, quiet place to be. It's comfortable. I love this bright white interior. The one thing that is kind of strange is the seating position is remarkably high. You can't drop the seat down very low, and I'm sure that's attributed to the sound system underneath the seat, the subwoofers under there, which I assume are there. I'm going to confirm that, and then also obviously the battery pack underneath the floor as well. But it's just weird because this seat seems to sit higher than the passenger seat. But we've got Hyundai's excellent active lane keeping system here, and cruising at 73 on the dash is giving us 72 on our GPS. Let's close the sunroof there, make it even quieter in here. And I suspect this is going to be a really nice place to be. So we're going to continue on with the rest of the test and catch up with you at the end. In the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end here of the highway range and efficiency test here on the Electrified GV70. According to the vehicle's trip readout, 3 miles per kilowatt hour is going to be putting us right about that magic EPA figure, 230 or so miles if you were to use up the whole battery. And that's pretty darn good cruising along here. Like I said, it is kind of ideal situation for an electric vehicle. The AC's not having to work super hard and everything like that. But let's take a look at our EV screen. Yeah, only 1 mile extra we'd get right now if we were to turn the HVAC off. So I'm honestly pretty satisfied with riding around this car. It's very quiet if you listen here. Nicely insulated. Still not a huge fan of the seating position, but admittedly, once you kind of get used to it and you spend an hour and a half behind the wheel here, you kind of just get used to it. That's just sort of how it works. Average 68 miles per hour, and I bet you by the time we get this back to the house, we coast down here and get some regen going, we might even see 3.1 according to the trip readout. So once we get it back, we're going to charge this thing all the way up and get some final figures and make some calculations. But it looks like we're going to be at about 60% charge when we reach 100 miles, even though we will be slightly under 100 miles for the whole test. And that would be getting you nearly 250 miles of total range. So again, glad that at least that estimated EPA figure is pretty easy to see here in the real world. Here we are, all charged up in the Electrified GV70, 3 miles per kilowatt hour according to the car's readout. But to get the 215 miles estimated by the EPA on the highway here, we would have only had to do 2.77 miles per kilowatt hour, so we're already looking promising there. After accounting for charging losses, the car took about 30 kilowatt hours to charge all the way up from 60%. So we traveled 94.2 miles divided by that 30 kilowatt hours, giving us 3.14 miles per kilowatt hour. So I think somewhere in there between the car's readout and this calculation here, I think 3.1 is a really good efficiency number for this car. And like I said, very ideal highway numbers. If we take that 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour times the 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, you're getting just a hair under 240 miles. So we're going to drop down for safety's sake to 230 miles, cruising at 70 miles per hour with the climate on here in the Genesis Electrified GV70. Now, yes, that number might not sound fantastic for a car like this, but given the luxuriness of the car, and the price point and the fact it's a little more of an SUV, that's not terrible. And if you can reliably get that figure and then charge up quickly at an Electrify America station, one of the 350 kilowatt chargers, I think you could do a lot worse. But I would like to see Genesis put a larger battery pack in this car because I think getting up toward that 300 number would really sell it for a lot of people. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Electrified GV70, check the link in the description, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.